Great day of football for you. Really a pleasure to introduce this guy. Okay, John and I met in 1983. Anybody that wants to know the story behind that first meeting, I'll buy you beer in the lounge afterwards. That is very entertaining. The fact that we're both still standing, not both in the hospital, but it's been a long time. John is one of the guys who gets it. A guy that I've got the utmost respect for. One of the few handful of guys in the state right now that I would be proud of coaching. That says a lot. Took a coach at Everett, coach at Thornton Academy, way back when Dick Cresti had a great run. John moved to Massabesic and took a program that had zero football tradition and turned it into a powerhouse for as long as he was there. And I can remember going down, my in-laws live in Limerick, which I'm not sure if that's in your district or whatever it is. I'd go over in the summertime and he had a youth camp. He'd have 250 little guys from 6 years old all the way up through, and we'd go over and we'd work with them. They did a great job. A couple of Ethan Dolman was one of his linemen that came to base. He was a 4-year starter for us. But again, guys, here's a guy you really want to pay attention to. He understands what's going on. John, without further ado, thank you, sir. Appreciate it, sir.
First of all, thanks for coming to the TBD, because I know those can be kind of scary.
Honestly, there are a couple of other mistakes on the schedule. Yes, you can yell at me, whatever, it's all good. John, we'll figure it out. Thank you.
So that's why I tried to get here early and put it up so that at least you have an idea of what we're talking about. Skip kind of introduced it, the fact that no football tradition at Massabesic. They've had a couple of good seasons since they had come into Class A back in 1987. But over those 10 years, they were a Class B team that moved up to Class A and filled the place in the schedule, basically, is what it was. We had played against them when I was at TA, and you could see the potential that was there. You could see the potential, and they had just started a feeder program there during that block of time, and really wasn't being utilized the way that it could be. So when we, myself and when the staff, when we got there, of course, we were installing a new system at the high school, both offensively and defensively. But in the meantime, doing that, we said, if this is what we're going to do, then we need to get down into the youth program. We need to get down starting with, it was 3rd grade where we started back then. And we need to start developing these kids within the system that we were going to run at the high school. And when we get into the actual structure, it's going to be a triple option structure because that was our offensive philosophy. Did the same thing with the defense. I'm going to focus more on what we did offensively today, but we've done the same thing with our defense as well. But what we felt we needed to do was, if this was not going to be, and I'll get into this in a minute too, if this is what we were going to do, then we needed to develop kids within that system. This was working. So things to consider before you install your system. Okay? You need to develop a philosophy. This is what we were going to do. This is going to be our offensive philosophy. Okay? It needs to be your identity. We felt we needed to have a primary, and then of course we had to have something to back it up, but they've got to mesh. Okay? Needs to be a play-action pass complement off of it. If this is your base, then you've got to have a play-action pass complement to that. That for the first 2 seconds, they think it's your base play. And what we talk about is what's your bread and butter, where you're going to hang your hat. And I'll talk about SOS a little bit later on, but if you talk to our kids, if you said SOS, they knew exactly what you were talking about. Stay on schedule, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. You need to commit to this system. Now, like I said, as we get into this, you're going to see how we did it within the triple option idea. If you're a wing T team, if you're an I team, if you're a split back veer team, if you're a spread zone read, run and shoot, West Coast, that's your system. I think you can use the same ideas that we did to incorporate the triple option system through the system, throughout our program, with whatever you're doing. Okay? Not a gimmick or a quick fix. That was the big thing that we heard. Oh, this triple option thing. They got a quarterback that can run around a little bit. So, hey, when that guy graduates, they're going to have to go do something else. No. That we were going to be a triple option team, okay, for the block of time that I was there, because that's what we believed in. No, it wasn't going to be just a quick fix. Okay? The other thing we find is that you can't dabble with it. And again, I don't care what you're in. Once you make your commitment, you can't just dabble with that. You've got to commit to this. When push comes to shove, this is what we're going to do. Okay? When it's 4th and 2, what are you going to do? What do your kids believe in? Okay? Loyalty and confidence, and I think that comes, okay, through them being developed within that system from the time that, whenever they start. Whether it's 3rd grade or whether it's a kid that doesn't play until he's a freshman, okay? But it's the same. That 3rd grader gets the same basic building blocks, okay, as the 9th grader gets, okay, if they're starting for the first time. And you can't stagnate. You need to stay innovative. And that's one of the things that we found, okay, especially with the triple option, is that this isn't the triple option that Oklahoma ran back in the late 80s, early 90s. Okay, when Barry Switzer was there. Okay, it's not the one that Darryl Royal ran in Texas. Okay, it's not even the one that Paul Johnson ran at when he was at Navy and when he was at Georgia Tech. Okay. Me and a good friend of mine I coach with. Okay, we are at Army every spring. We spend 2 or 3 days there because we want to know what's the newest thing. Okay, what are they doing to progress? Because we need to do the same thing. Just because it worked 5 years ago, 10 years ago, doesn't mean it's going to work now. And I think that's the same with whatever system you're in. You can't stagnate. And your feeder programs are a major piece of that. You've got to get them on board. And I mean everyone. Not just the coaches, not just the players. That's got to go down into the parents. That's got to go down into your community. It's got to go down into the individual schools. Okay? Those are all people that when they're in the high school, you're at the high school level, you're going to want them in your camp. So you got to start now. Again, that buy-in, that's what we're looking for, that commitment. We want them to feel like they're a part of that final product that goes out on the field on Friday night. So that a youth coach can say, hey, those 2 kids right there, they played, they learned this back when they played for me. Okay? Everybody feels like they're a part of what that final product that goes out on the field. Good working relationships, solid fundamental base, and the thing that we felt was important and it was teaching progressions. Okay? We had to develop a teaching progression for each position where they would learn not only just basic football fundamentals, those are important no matter what system you run, but especially because of the triple option philosophy that we have. So how did we do that? One, first thing is an open line of communication. Those guys had to feel that that none of us were unapproachable. Whether it was myself, whether it was our offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, position coaches, freshman, that they could feel comfortable in contacting us, and there were never any dumb questions. The only dumb question is one that you don't ask that comes back to bite you in the butt later on. We ran clinics for our coaches, okay, and all of our practices were open. We used to take our team away. We thought that was real important that first week of preseason. Now, and Coach Filio, I know that if you're thinking about doing it, okay, I would say that, you know, if you want to talk to me, talk to Coach Filio. There are, and I know there's financial pieces to it and everything, but I'll tell you, there is nothing better than having those kids isolated for 5 or 6 days, and they're just yours. Nothing like it. But we would tell our youth coaches they could come. And we'd even say, hey, if you want to stay overnight, we'll put you up overnight. If you want to stay for a couple, all of those opportunities were open for them. Skip talked about the camp that we ran. Basically, we ran 2 camps within one. We ran a camp for 3, 4, 5. We ran a camp for 6, 7, 8. They kind of overlap. The 3, 4, 5 guys came in at 5 o'clock, and they were there till 6:30. Just about the amount of time that we did that you can kind of keep their interest. The older guys would come in at 6. We'd stretch them and we'd do some dynamic stuff with them for that first half hour. And then once the 3, 4, 5 guys left, that whole staff that was working with them would then come over and work with the 6, 7, 8 guys. And they were there from 6 to 8. And it wasn't only for the players. Hey, we kind of tried to build some clinic stuff in there too at the same time. Those were, if I could only do one of them, it would be this one. And wasn't easy because it was we would do this camp, and then we'd have a week off, and then we'd start preseason. So it was. I thought it was great for me because it got me kind of in the mode for preseason already. That can be a grind. We're going to talk about that in a little bit too. Coach's handbook and playbooks. Okay, the coach's handbook had more to-do type of things. Not X's and O things, but practice organization stuff, parent communication stuff, dealing with kids, try to stay involved with them, and it's a little harder for the youth guys because they really don't have any tie to school. But we felt we needed to start building that school football connection. So there was a lot of stuff about that. And then, of course, the playbook was more X's and O's and techniques and that sort of thing. And one of the things that we did at the end was we started developing training videos that we were able to share with the individual position coaches during that time.
Coach, for those, for the youth and junior high camp, was that, how many days in that?
That was a week. That was a week. And we kind of thought we towards the end, the first 2 days we were just helmets, and then the last 3 days we would we put shoulder pads on them so that we could kind of bring some of those basic fundamental things, and It was never, I mean, it was mostly all bags, and we weren't, shouldn't say that. There were a few things we did, kind of upper and thud type of things. But that was 5 days. It was 5 days. If you're thinking about being a head coach, or if you're a new young head coach, if you don't get anything out of what I talk about today, okay, Skip talks about getting it. If you get this, then all of this stuff that we're talking about developing within your team, within your community, within your school is going to happen. You can't miss this point, because this is where most people miss the boat. If you want the buy-in that you need in order to be successful, okay, these 3 things that you need to remember. It's not what they can do for you. That can't be your approach. I need you to do this. I need you to run this. I need you to do this drill. A kid needs to be able to do this when he comes to me from you. No. It's got to be, what can I do for you? You've got to put the focus on them. Take it off yourself.
That's it, just do that, you're all set.
Huh?
That's it, you just do that, you're all set.
There we go.
No? I don't know what happened. If you help enough people get what you want, you'll get what you want as a byproduct. It's just going to happen. But again, that goes back to that idea of taking your eyes off yourself and putting it on other people. And I'm glad Coach Dexter mentioned this in the other room, because it fits right in. When he talked about care, when he talked about love, when he talked about building relationships. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And this probably goes more for your kids than anything else, for your players. And I think that's one of the real keys right now. But this goes for the guy. Right now, we're talking about the guys in your feeder program. If they know you care about them, and how much you care about them, you're willing to spend time with them, to put the effort in, okay, then you're going to get out of them what they're going to get out of them what you need. Okay? But they need to know that. You need to be approachable. You need to be willing to build those relationships with those guys. Relationships take time. Relationships take effort. A lot of people don't want to take the time and the effort to do those things anymore, and that's the difference. Hey, we can't recruit unless you're at some schools. Did I say that on one? Sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
You weren't talking.
That's terrible. I shouldn't have said that.
We got it on film.
So we need to develop kids, and you need to develop within your system. But again, we're going back to what we do, what we did. Okay, grades 3 and 4, depending on the structure of your program. I mean, at one time we played within ourselves, and we had 5 teams, grades 3 through 4, 5 teams, grades 5 and 6. Okay, and now we belong to the Smithville League, but I really think that we had to move into Smithville to be competitive with the teams that were already there, but I really think it hurt our numbers. We had more kids playing when we played within ourselves. So here's what we're looking at. And when we're talking about the skilled positions here, basically because of the system. Quarterbacks, 2 through 6, fullbacks, position, slot back, split end, tight end. Okay? But basically what it comes down to is that by looking at developing this number of kids at each of those positions, from these numbers every 2 years, we need to find one guy that can pull the trigger and do the things we're asking him to do. Okay? 1 fullback, 2 slot backs, 2 split ends, and a tight end, and then an adequate backup at each. So this was our goal for using this teaching progression idea that we had. Now, K through 2 is something that we added well after, I would say probably more than halfway through my time at Massachusett. Okay? The stuff guys wanted to do with K through 12, it's gonna be 11-man, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do that. It's like, wait, whoa. Okay? The major thing about this is it's gonna be fun. It's just a step above what they do at recess at school. It's organized recess. That's what it is. Everybody needs to touch the ball. Don't get locked into a position. Please don't tell a kindergarten kid that happens to be a little heavy that he's going to put his hand in the ground and be there for 12 years. Okay? Don't do that. And then the big thing that finally, after we got everybody thinking on this in the same line, the biggest decision was it's going to be flag or it's going to be touch. But like I said, one step above organized recess. But there were some things that we felt that needed to happen with those kids. The first thing is that they need to learn how to run. I mean, it's like, and they don't teach that stuff in phys ed anymore. I was a phys ed teacher for 20 years before I moved into administration. And they don't teach kids how to run anymore. Properly and efficiently. So that was one of the things that we developed a running program, a running progression for those kids. Right? And dynamic and locomotive movements. We've got 2 grandkids that are 6 or in first grade. To ask them to gallop, I mean, what's that? Hop, skip. What's skip? They don't know these things. Now think about you're doing some of that stuff in your warm-ups now. That's how we warm up now, those dynamic movements. So we wanted to start getting those kids to do those dynamic movements. Basic football fundamentals. How to carry it, how to catch it, how to throw it, and some basic terminology things. That was about the extent of what we were doing. But the biggest thing is we didn't want anyone to leave that program with a bad taste in their mouth. We want to see them in the 3rd grade. It took some time to get everybody on the same page. We really felt that this was the right approach for those K through 2 kids. So teaching progressions. Okay? Grade specific, fundamentally based. Okay? We'll show you how we got there in a minute. And it's 5-6 block goes on top of the 3-4 block. Reinforcing the things they learned here, introducing a couple of new things, and the 7 and 8. Okay? So that's how we wanted that to work. And we did them for each position. Okay? And both offensively and defensively. Involving individual techniques, skills. The biggest thing was that we built coaching points into these things as well. Those important coaching points. And the coaching points stayed the same. The techniques and the skills progress, but the coaching points don't change. And that's where the consistency came from. We just gradually advanced things by grade level. When a kid was ready, and when we felt a kid was ready, or what they should know at that next level, that's when we introduced that stuff. Same thing with the terminology. We built a terminology progression in as well, to complement the skills and the drills and the techniques. And then we built in an offensive play installation schedule as well. So the 3-4 guys had a series of plays that they ran that were the same plays that we ran at the high school. Called them the same way, same formation. Hey? The only thing is, at the 3-4 level, everything was predetermined. We were either giving the ball to the fullback, the quarterback was either keeping the ball, or he was automatically pitching it. But we had but that's all 3 phases. And then as we progressed through the grades, we put the pitch read in, grade 5 and 6. We put the handoff key read in, grade 7 and 8. Okay? And then by the time they got to the high school, okay, we would hope, the idea, if you go back to the previous slide, okay, we'd have, somewhere between 2 and 4 kids that could read it effectively, all 3 creases, by the time they got to the high school. Okay? In fact, there was one year, I think it was 2007. Starting quarterback was a quarterback that went through here. The fullback was not. He was a fullback. 2 slot backs were 2 quarterbacks that could read it, and we had 1 wideout that was a quarterback. That we had 4 guys that we could have put behind the center and effectively run the triple. Now they all brought a different, skill set, but they all could make sure a high enough percentage of time that the ball was in the phase that it was supposed to be. And that wasn't us. That was the job that our feeder guys were doing that prepared those kids. Okay, developing progressions. This is how we did it. These things, what's going to happen at each grade level? What do we want to see happen at each grade level? So what we did was, how many educators do we have in here? Have you heard of backwards design? That was this big, great idea. Backwards design was developed by 2 guys in 1998. What I'm going to show, now again, I am not the sharpest knife in the drawer, okay? 99% of what I do, I stole from someone, okay? We did this in 1997, before backwards design was this big educational craze, okay? In fact, I actually got into a pretty heated argument with one of my superintendents about who really came up with backwards design. So we asked ourselves as a varsity staff, what do we want a freshman to know when he gets to the JV and varsity level? So we put those things down. Then we went to our freshman coaches. What do you want an 8th grader to know? Then we went to our 7th and 8th grade guys. What do you want a 6th grader to know? And we went all the way down to 3-4. So we had all this stuff on the board, great stuff. And this is what's going to make this work. We had to go back to the bottom and look at those 3 and 4 guys and say, what do you think you can teach a 3rd or 4th grader before he goes to 5th grade within the framework of these triple option techniques that we're looking to develop? And then we worked our way back up. And this took some time, this took some effort, and on their part, probably more than anything else, because these guys are working jobs and stuff, The feedback was phenomenal. I got it. Those guys probably had more to do with this working than I ever did. The biggest thing is we needed to create some flexibility and some creativity within the system, though. It wasn't the fact that, okay, here's the playbook. These are the only things that you're going to be able to run. Don't do anything else. had to give them an opportunity to be creative and you know, on their own. Do some of the things that they enjoy doing and that they felt would be successful. Okay? The only thing we asked is if you do that, please do it within our terminology so that we're always talking the same language. That was the only thing we asked. So if you want to run triple, reverse, pass back to the quarterback, or whatever, okay, fine. Just when you install it, when you call it, and just make sure it's within our communication system. So, again, this is going to be based on what we felt we needed to do in order to prepare kids to run a triple option. Okay? But again, I think when you look at the basic things about the wing T, you just approach this with wing T, techniques, skills, plays, terminology. Same thing with the spread, reader. Same thing with whatever you're doing. Big thing for us was there was no read at the 3rd and 4th grade level, like I told you before. We were either giving the ball, keeping the ball, or pitching it. Okay? But the footwork was the same. Aiming points were the same. Okay? Getting the 3rd grader to come downhill was a little, that was kind of hard. They liked that really bent path, try to get away from all those guys wearing the other color. But basically, we wanted it to look the same. We're just taking all the reads out of it. But again, if you want to keep these kids interested, every one of them needs to touch the ball. So we had a play for the fullback, you had a play for the slot backs, and we had a play for and obviously we had a play for the quarterback. All the blocking schemes were base and drive, one-on-one. We just felt it was real important at this level that the linemen learn everything comes off a good solid drive block. So we didn't teach them anything else other than that. If you as a coach saw that because of the group you had or an individual player, if you felt that you could go to the next level, do it. Do it. Incorporate that next piece. So for this it would be, if you had a kid that you thought could pitch off whoever is coming to play the pitch or play the quarterback, pitch the ball. So they weren't locked in. Again, running out of plays, again, creativity, okay? It's your program. Ownership, but just use our terminology. Okay? Again, that idea from the K2, it's still got to be fun. Okay? But there were some really basic fundamentals that we felt those 3rd and 4th graders should have, so the 5th and 6th grade guys could be successful in their part. Okay, so what we do when we got to 5th and 6th? The give and the keep is predetermined, okay? But we wanted to be able to find the guy that was responsible for the quarterback and pitch off him. Now, I'll be honest with you, we had some kids that were able to handle the handoff key as 5th and 6th graders. And again, I think that's more a tribute to our feeder program guys than anything else. Everything to this point was dive, the crease off the guard. We're going to go to the next crease, which for us was going to be the midline. And it goes the same thing. The midline it was either give and then you could keep and pitch, so we approach that the same way. Pass game in the deep. I don't know, you guys third and fourth grade pass games. It's more jump, but jump pass. But here we're going to start to incorporate some spread out. Okay? The other thing we thought that was important is they need to start counter game. Because one of the big things for us is when people defend the triple, they're trying, once they feel that they know which side we're going to run the triple to, they're going to try to take people from the opposite side of the ball and get them over there. Okay? So we felt that one of the big things is, especially with linebackers, is we can hit them with some type of a counter now. So we started to develop a counter game at the 5th and 6th grade level. Again, same thing, you can incorporate more if you're able. We're going to start giving our linemen at this point the idea that, hey, it's important for you guys to start working together. 2 of you together. 2 of you to block 2 of them. Okay? So we start to get some of those schemes involved at that point. Again, that idea of let's solidify those things that they did 3-4, okay? And then that idea of building on top of those. 7th and 8th grade, guys, okay? We felt that by the time a kid was in 8th grade, you should be able to read all three creases. Because we're going to introduce the veer crease at this point, okay? That brings the fullback's path out one more. We're reading the first man outside the inside hip of the tackle. A base play for us against 50 defenses. And we wanted our freshman quarterbacks needed to be able to read all three creases. We're going to install the play action pass game off the ride. Okay? Now, there's a difference between this and there's a difference between this. Okay? For us anyway. Okay? We needed to be able to get that what we call it the sink. We need to be able to sell the sink, okay, if we're really going to sell the play action pass. And that's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to do. Okay? But to be successful in our play action pass game, that sink piece is important. We're going to start looking at unbalanced line formations at this level. And we're also going to start getting our perimeter guys. Up until now, it's basically been stock blocking. We're going to start to incorporate some different perimeter blocking schemes, okay, at this point as well. And hopefully at this point, this idea of believing in the offense and being loyal and committed and that sort of thing starts to come through. And again, that huge for our feeder program guys, because they're the ones that build the base of this. There has to be, we can't start from scratch at the high school level with that belief and that trust and that commitment. Okay, so our freshmen, which is a little easier because our freshman team is with us all the time. Okay? But we're going to solidify the triple as being, about 60 to 70% of our offense. If it's not, then we're in trouble. Okay? We do that by the way we structure practice, and obviously by the way we call the game. But they're going to start working on that at the freshman level. Play action pass game now is off of all three creases. So we can run our play action pass game off the midline, off the dive, and off the feet. And we want to develop a practice habit, okay? Execution and effort. Practice for us has to be as much like a game as possible. During our individual and our group periods, and we have a period a team period, separate from, we have 2 team periods during our offensive practice, but one block of time is nothing but triple and play action pass off the triple. That's all we do during that block of time. Okay? That second team period is going to involve our counter game, our power game, the other complements that we do. But this period is strictly offense. Triple option. We want to start to incorporate automatics, opposites, and check with me. Okay? If they're cheating by alignment, we want to have the ability to adjust to that. And the biggest thing is that we are now going to establish our quarterback as our field general and our leader, which I'm not saying that that's not important in any offense, but it certainly is important in ours, because we're asking him to make a tremendous amount of decisions after the snap. And then here's the most, again, this is the most important part, and I'll tell you a quick story to kind of solidify this. This is what we do. This is what, when push comes to shove, when things are tough, when you're having trouble, when someone's giving you a hard time, you're gonna have an answer. You're gonna have something. Okay? Well, the big thing for us is that now if you're superior to us physically, we still think we might be able to confuse you a little bit. And you might leave a phase open. Okay? But we're going to have, any of us are going to have a tough time when we're playing someone that's just better than we are. Okay? But they can't stop everything. Okay? We may go 3 and out the first 2 or 3 times we have the ball. But as soon as we figure out how you're cheating, we're going to use something to put the ball in that area that you're vacating. Or we're going to find that guy that you're asking to do 2 things. Okay? And then we're going to put him in a position where he can't make the right decision. And that takes patience. Okay? And you guys know now, kids today, they have no patience at all. It's immediate gratification, and that's not the way it is. SOS, stay on schedule. Okay? And I'm an offensive line coach, and always coached the offensive line for 42 years that I've coached football. Okay? And I tell them, I said, because I don't think there's any group that can control what happens on the football field any more than you. Because if you do your job, you 5 guys do your job together as a group, this is what we're asking you to do. Make it 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 6. Make it 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. Make it 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 on their side of the 50. Make it 4th and 1 in between our 40 and 50. And if you move the sticks, great. Everybody loves the 50-yard pass. Everybody loves the guy that runs one sideline and then bellies back and scores a touchdown running. Well, not me. Nothing sends a message any more than that. 5, nothing sends a message any more than that. You control the game. Stay on schedule. 2nd and 6 to 7. 3rd and 3 to 4. And those 4th down situations. Well, you could even go for it when you're inside your 10, right, Coach?
Coming up.
I don't know about that. But you asked, if you went, well, a few years back, you looked at one of our kids, especially our offensive lineman, you said SOS, stay on schedule. You know what it is. Because that is our belief. kind of gives you an example of what we came up with. Okay? And this was for 3rd and 4th grade. Quarterback, the techniques, the drills, and the terminology. Okay? The things in white, I don't care what offense you run. Those are things that a 3rd, 4th grade quarterback, what a quarterback going into the 5th grade needed to know those things. The red things were specific, had specific techniques and drills for the triple. So if you were going to do this, then if you were with that, like I said, with any offense, those things in white are things that a 4th grade quarterback that's going to become a 5th grader should know. And again, just because of what we do, we felt there were certain things that we needed to do with those quarterbacks to prepare them, okay, to run the triple. But again, all that stuff's great, okay? And it worked for us. But I think the reason it worked for us is because we as a staff committed to this piece. And I know, oh, you saw that slide already. Yeah, there's a reason why you're seeing it again. Because I think, again, it's the most important thing that you can get out of this. Okay? And I'm going to build on this a little bit more at the X's and O's clinic in April. We're going to take this servant leadership approach to another level. Okay? But again, if you need to be the hardest worker in your program. You need to be the hardest worker. You need to be the best servant in your program. You need to make more commitments. You need to make more sacrifices. And one of the biggest things I learned from Bob Fallon, who was one of the head coaches I worked for, he said, John, he said, if you're trying to duplicate what you do with your assistants and people in your program, you got to understand, he says, no matter how hard you work, they're only going to work 80% as hard as you. He says, and that's if they're a good one. So if you want them at 100%, he said, you better be at 120. If you think someone's going to help you, or they're going to help you get where you want to go, like I said before, you got to help them get where they want to go first. Now, I've got all of those done, and again, it's for the triple, but again, I think that if you take the time to look at your system, you can do this for your system as well. But I have all of those, both the progression chart that I showed you, okay, and the skill drill and terminology things that go with it. Whatever I got is yours. Because like I said, 99% of what I talk about and what I teach, okay, I stole from someone else. I give them credit name-wise the first time I talk about it. The second time I'll say, well, you know, somebody did this, someone told me that, okay? If you hear me say it the third time, then I'll steal it. Then it's mine.
You want the hook?
Huh?
You want the hook?
I got the hook?
No, pretty close.
All right, so there's my contact information. I'm going to be here for the rest of the evening. I write right through. If you want to sit down, if you want to talk, I've got all the stuff I'm talking to you about on here. Okay, so I can show it to you, or if you.
There it is. It's just in red.
It's in red. Looks good in red.
I agree.
I think I look good in red.
You don't want it green?
Huh?
You don't want green on it?
No. I was hoping Johnny Hurst would be here. I thought he'd like the blue and silver. But please, because I mentioned Bob Fallon, Doc Hurst, Dick Agresti. These are all guys that I owe not only the coach that I am, but the man, the father, because of the examples that they set and things that they taught me. I hate to use the word obligated, because obligated it kind of gives the term that I don't want to do it, but I feel like I have to. But this sport and coaching young men did so much for me as a player and as a young coach that I want to make sure that if I'm a coach, every player has the opportunity to learn the things that I did about life because of the men that coached me. And as a young coach, I wanted to be able to become an old coach or a seasoned coach, like the ones that taught, like the ones that I worked for and learned so much from. And that's the legacy that Coach Dexter was talking about. If nothing else, that's why I'm still involved after 42 years, it's the legacy that's important of those guys that paved the way for myself, and for you guys in here, and young men and young coaches need to have that same opportunity. I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you. And if you liked what you saw here, again, I'm going to be building on this at the X's and O's clinic in April. And but again, thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
And